Here's the Dick Morris thing. He was on Fox again. He's got a book in which he talks about, his book is called Screwed. You can say that, I think, in Des Moines. And he talks about what this administration is planning to do to the Second Amendment. And he says, Democrats learned their lesson, in essence, in the last time around. And they don't come after Second Amendment rights directly. So now they're trying to accomplish it indirectly, and this is the first report. I want you to hear this.
On July 27th, Hillary is going to sign a global arms control, gun control treaty. Its nominal purpose is to stop guns from being shipped to criminal gangs. But in fact, it sets up a UN body that will control guns throughout the world. And the treaty is opposed by 58 U.S. senators, more than enough to kill it. But under the Vienna Convention, which the United States signed, once we sign a treaty, we are bound by it until either the Senate rejects it or the president renounces it. So her strategy, I think, is to sign this treaty on July 27th, bind the United States. Harry Reid will never bring it up for a vote in the Senate,
right.
And if Obama's reelected, he won't renounce it. It could lead to confiscation of guns. A treaty has the force of a constitutional amendment under the Supremacy Clause. This treaty would, in effect, repeal the Second Amendment.
Okay, I wanted you to focus on that last thing. This treaty would repeal the Second Amendment. That is, I'm not advocating the treaty. I think it's a ridiculous idea. It should not be signed. And you listen to the way he described it. They're trying to get this through the back door under pre-existing scams that the political class has bound us to. All of it's bull hockey, by the way. But on his website, Dick Morris repeats this and embellishes it.
And one of the deadly parts about this is that when a treaty is signed and is made binding in the United States, it acquires the force of a constitutional amendment. Under the Supremacy Clause, every Congress and every state legislature has to honor that treaty unless a constitutional amendment is passed to the contrary or unless all the other signatories let the U.S. out of the treaty. So this would be permanent, long-term gun control, all done without Congress. Now, they would need Senate ratification, but they could probably get that in the lame duck Democratic Senate.
All right, so that's Dick Morris on his website, repeating the same thing and embellishing it even more and making this, he said this would be permanent unless we had a constitutional amendment to overturn the effects of a treaty. And he's not the first person to observe that. I have a quote all the way back in 1952. This was John Foster Dulles in the Eisenhower administration, I think. He went to the Bar Association, and he said, hey, about this treaty stuff. And he was a big advocate. He was an internationalist, and the UN was being just solidified back then. And he says treaties make international law. And also they make domestic law. Under our Constitution, treaties become the supreme law of the land. They are indeed more supreme than ordinary laws, for congressional laws are invalid if they don't conform to the Constitution, whereas treaties can override the Constitution. They can cut across the rights given to the people by their constitutional Bill of Rights. That's, as he said, John Foster Dulles said that in 1952. Well, if a guy like that says it, and Dick Morris says it, and this is how the political class teaches it, I guess it must be true. So I guess if Hillary signs that, there goes the Second Amendment, and there goes our Bill of Rights, and our gun laws and our gun rights are at risk. Well, not so fast. Let me give you the other side of the story, and I did this the other day. I dealt with a 1956 court case that described this. It was designed to address this. It was a Reed court before the U.S. Supreme Court. Their opinion was, and this would have to do with what power NATO has, that is that North Atlantic Treaty Organization and the status of forces. And the case involved, does that NATO treaty supersede the United States Constitution? And here's what the court said. No agreement with a foreign nation can confer power on Congress or any other branch of government which is free from the restraints of the Constitution. The Supremacy Clause of the Constitution declares, this Constitution and the laws of the United States, which shall be made pursuant thereof, and all the treaties made, which shall be made tender under the authority, or made under the authority of the United States, shall be the supreme law of the land. There's nothing in this language which intimates that treaties and laws enacted pursuant to them do not have to comply with the provisions of the Constitution, nor is there anything in the debates which accompanied the drafting and ratification which even suggests that result. All right, that is, and they go on into a more detailed explanation. So there were things in the debates and in the writings of the founders that said exactly the opposite. And I'll give you a couple of quick examples here because I want to move on to some other stuff. Alexander Hamilton viewed treaties as instruments of agreement between nations and not as international pacts designed to impact individuals. He said treaties are not rules prescribed by the sovereign to the subject, but agreements between sovereigns and sovereigns. You understand the distinction? The treaties were designed to influence the sovereign acts of sovereign states, not to micromanage individuals within those sovereign states. He says treaties are not prescribed by the sovereign to the subject. That would be citizens. Subject would be the appropriate word if you were in England and you were subject to the king or queen. We are not subjects, by the way, in this country. We are citizens. It's a big, important difference. Anyway, Hamilton added, here is the mother lode. The only constitutional exception to the power of making treaties is, here's the punchline, the only constitutional exception to the power of making treaties is that it shall not change the Constitution. So the guy that helped write the Constitution says treaties cannot subvert or rewrite the Constitution, cannot get rid of the Second Amendment, cannot do any of the things that Dick Morris was talking about, or more precisely what the political class has done or internationalists have done to use the power of treaties to accomplish what they cannot get done under our constitutional form of government. And they're only getting away with this, or even attempting to try to get away with this, is because we're all historically illiterate and dumber than road bumps. And because some scholar somewhere says that treaties rewrite the Constitution, we're supposed to say, I didn't know that. They didn't teach me that in civics class. Well, they didn't teach you that in civics class because it would have been a lie, just like it is now. Now, I don't think Dick Morris is intentionally lying to us here. I just think he's just bought into what the political class has been serving up. And the mechanisms that he's describing exist. So if we assent to them by our complicity, they will in fact do what he says they will do, only if we allow them. And it's interesting how they've chosen to do this. They're going to sign this and put it into force, and they're going to use that previous existing treaty to say, unless the Senate says no, it's law. That turns it upside down. Treaties are only supposed to go into effect if the Senate ratifies them. So this is exactly opposite of what our form of government is designed to do. It's a lie, it's a scam, it's a hustle, and it only works on historically illiterate people, like the American public. Oh, by the way, here's not just Hamilton's view. Jefferson summed up the view of the drafters of the Constitution by asserting, if the treaty-making power is boundless, then we have no Constitution.